Well, I hope everybody got their coffee and they're ready to get excited again. I think one of the big takeaways today is when you go out looking for good silver opportunities, a big takeaway for me is how few there are. I had a very long discussion last night with multiple colleagues about just that fact. Because if we look back at the last silver cycle, there were some amazing companies were built out of that cycle. First Majestic or other companies. But there was a lot of consolidation and people are going, what is going to happen in the next one? And you look around and there's not the same level of projects today that there were back then. And for me, that's a huge takeaway when we just think about what's going to happen in the next silver cycle. So obviously lots of forward-looking statements, and I'm going to be talking a lot, and I won't go over this slide because I'll just tell the story myself about our number one asset, which is Santa Ana. I want to go a little bit more into the overall silver story because if you look back, we're kind of in a very similar situation where you're seeing a very large divergence between silver price today and gold price. We're seeing historical gold prices, and we really haven't seen the same rally yet in silver. And you go, well, that must be because silver's in oversupply, but we've had 3 years of deficit in silver. And it's just because there's just not a lot of demand for it. No, something really interesting happened over the last couple of years, and it's for the first time industrial use of silver has surpassed any other use. It's actually now to 60% of all silver is actually for industrial use. And my takeaway is because everybody has been talking about the importance of silver in the energy transition. It becomes more and more in every single one of it. If it's solar panels or if it's electric vehicles, there's a little smidging of silver throughout. And now it's hitting a point where that going from 1% to 2%, but 2% to 4%, but 4% to 8%, and now it's taking these big steps in the overall demand. So we're going to see a true swell in silver because it's sprinkled through. So it's pretty much transcends most technologies. You don't really feel it as much because it's not electric motors for copper. It's sprinkled throughout, but that demand is becoming a really big issue. So I think it's very interesting because we're testing the elasticity of how long it can be held down. And I looking at the parallels to what happened, for example, in the uranium market, where I don't care. It's under, there's not a lack of supply. And then all of a sudden people are scrambling. I hope that it doesn't take to get to that same point in the silver market where there's truly a lack of supply versus demand and people start waking up. But I think it's very much poised to make a big difference. So then if you say, okay, I believe you, Ian, what kind of projects I can buy silver, but where can I get that investment dollar to go even further? And you say, which projects can become future mines? And you say, well, first, I want to have a very big exposure to the overall percentage of silver a project has. Grade is king, right? Because higher grade means, it's pretty fundamental. It is a very good indicator of potential feasibility of a project. So if you look at, and it's a short list, there's not very many companies out there that are development companies that have indicated resources. It's actually a very extremely short list, right? That if you look at the Outcrop project, first of all, 75% of our project is silver. 75%. It's a true silver project. And in terms of silver grade, it's even a higher silver grade than some of the highest grade projects that are going into production or are in production today. On an equivalent basis, it's still one of the highest, but on a silver basis, it's by far one of the highest grade projects in the world. So you start with grade. So I'm going to take a step back. We've recently last year, we put out a resource. We did a lot of drilling, a lot of indicated drilling to be able to prove to market how these veins overall hold together. We hit 7 different veins contributed to that overall resource in 37 million ounces. And that's importance of where we are today. Okay, so we had the high grade. I'm going to come back to that piece, but we put out a resource. All of the veins that you see on that map that are red were included in that resource estimate. All the orange lines on that map are veins that we have mapped. We have channel sampling or trench sampling across those veins, and they're bona fide exploration-ready targets. We've only explored maybe 20% of that overall over a 20-kilometer trend there. And so our number one goal that we are doing now is we're at 37 million ounces. How can we demonstrate that we have a pathway to not make 20% increases or 10% or 15% increases in resource, but we can take huge jumps in the overall resource size of this deposit? We actually, and I'm going to be very frank, we wanted to do that at the end of the year last year. We took a very difficult decision at the end of the year last year and changed out our drill contractor because they just weren't performing. They weren't hitting where we wanted. They weren't hitting the productivities that we wanted. And we had to make a big decision to say, we're going to make a switch. But I'm also very excited to be sharing with the group today that we're going to be restarting drilling very soon. We have brought back the old contractor. And even more, we took the time to, if you look on the map, and I can kind of see it, most of the resource drilling is all in the same area. But if we want to prove the overall trend, we need to start taking bigger steps to show that bringing some of these targets and converting them into discoveries. And we've taken the time to put the logistics and the agreements in place to be able to start moving towards some of these additional areas. So we made good work of the time, lots of lessons learned, and we're going to be enacting that very soon, and exciting to be able to put that strategy into effect. Unfortunately, I'm also a mining engineer, so I also like talking about this other stuff, right? So don't ask me too many difficult geological questions, but I can answer some other questions. As a mining engineer, I like working on projects that can become future mines, and that is one of the attractions of the Santa Ana project. So we start with one piece, grade. So we know that the grade is high, and that's obviously an easy indication of potential economics. Okay. Second, we're in Colombia, which has one of the lowest cost bases for mining in all of South America, which also is a big help. But what I really get excited about on this project is the mineralogy, right? Because I don't know if many people understand this, but having silver and actually getting paid for your silver are two separate things. Most silver mines, quote unquote, are zinc mines or lead mines, right? And they will actually produce their silver in a lead or a zinc concentrate or just a sulfide concentrate. And when they go and smelt that, sometimes they only get paid 65%, 75% of the actual silver content. And many people, I actually giggle a lot of times when I see zinc in an equivalent calculation, because I know that smelters don't pay you that anywhere close, okay? But in Santa Ana, our silver is actually, the majority of it, 88%, is a sulfide. And what does that mean? The silver floats. And that's very exciting. So we're producing a precious metal concentrate. We're producing a concentrate that has high percentages of silver. And I've said it a lot of times. I've said it previously. What makes me so excited about that is, A, you have a super high recovery. Just flotation alone, we're at 93. We're going to be adding in gravity test work combined with flotation. I think we can even beat that number. But 93% is a really good starting point. And I've said it many times. You can take that concentrate, and it's high enough grade that you can convert it directly to doré without leaching. So if you have a high grade, you have a high recovery, now you can have a high payable, because if it's in doré, you're getting paid 98 to 99% of your silver value there. So we have the high grade and we're not losing it. It's continuing to hold value through that stream. And I say, I know we can do it. But I can tell you today that you can do it. Literally in my hand from that same metallurgical test work, right? It's not a big amount, but that is silver from the Santa Ana mine produced directly from the concentrate, the flotation concentrate. Directly from that flotation concentrate, we can produce silver. And this is silver from the Santa Ana mine, okay? Which is pretty cool for me, because obviously that's the first silver production coming out of Santa Ana, but it also proves that you can take flotation concentrate without cyanide and you can produce silver directly from that project, which means you're going to contain that value. So then I look around Colombia, and I go, okay, some of the biggest mines, Continental, which is now Zijing, at Buritica, Marmato, which is Aris, which they're just doing an expansion. They're going to be getting up to 200,000 ounces a year this year. And you say, how did these mines start? Right? A lot of people say, Santa Ana, it's narrow vein. I don't want to tell you that Buritica, Segovia, Marmato, all of these projects started off at smaller levels of production and added more and more and more miners. These are all narrow vein mines, and some of them are producing over 200,000 ounces of gold a year. That is the way it works. And that's a pathway that we're going to follow. So the other thing that we're going to be doing and we're working on right now is to be able to prove is you have high grade, high recovery, high payable, then you're independent of scale. And we can start at a very small scale. It's not the overall project we want to develop, but we can do it on a pilot level and take a small pilot project into production is one of our goals for this year. So those are our two big goals. Demonstrate a pathway to take 37 million ounces and show how we can get over 100 million ounces, and also take a very small scale project into production profitably, very small, teeny actually, but to be able to demonstrate a pathway to production, right? And then you have the two pieces of the pie. You have the project, and you can also demonstrate a pathway into production. And obviously, I personally live in Colombia. I live in Medellin. I've been living there for the last 2.5 years. And one of the big reasons is it doesn't matter the technical components. It doesn't matter all these other issues. You can have a project that doesn't require cyanide to produce silver. Environmentally, it's got a massively low impact, et cetera. But if you do not work with your local communities, that is the number one pathway into having a successful project. And I'm very proud. And one of the reasons I joined last year, Outcrop, was because of the work and the style and the knowledge of the team and how they did build trust on the ground. And we're only going to be continuing that because that is probably, for me personally, the most important aspect of a company, to be able to drive a project forward. So I have an amazing team. I myself have spent the last 8 years now in Colombia. I'm mining engineer of my 25 years. 15 of those years are in South America. I was previously senior VP of Corriente and took the Mirador project into the start of construction, which went on to become the first industrial scale mine in Ecuador. So I like being involved in projects to become future mines. Joined with Kathy from Silvercorp. She's absolutely amazing. Makes my life so much easier and has a huge knowledge of the silver industry. Guillermo, our geologist, tons of work in Ecuador and Mexico on very similar. Joe, who was the previous CEO, helped. He was an amazing geologist who discovered the Santa Ana project, but an amazing team to be able to take this project forward. So we're very overall in the last few minutes, and I can then open it up to questions. We're very excited about 2024. I feel we didn't deliver what we wanted to do in 2023, but I'm very happy that we know that we're going to be able to deliver on that. We adjusted, took some difficult decisions, but the big thing is we want to be able to develop a pathway to demonstrate a much larger increase in our overall resource at the project, because I think we can continue, even in a bad market, create value for our shareholders, demonstrating that pathway. Santa Ana continues to put out grades that really make people's eyes pop and brings a lot of eyeballs to the project. And I know now with our restart and drilling that we're going to be able to deliver on that. The second is obviously the excitement around what I call the trifecta of high grade, high recoveries, high payable. And we've proven that it can be done, and we'll obviously be doing more technical work to be able to demonstrate that. So those are the two separate pathways to create significant growth. And if you believe in the overall silver story, we are one of the most leveraged companies out there that will, because of our such high silver content and a truly ability to take a pathway into production, that we will be one of the companies I think that really will soar if there's any sort of correction in silver price. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.